This is Pokemon Emerald Yet's Speed Choice, a ROM hack that can bring most of genetic mechanics and quality of life features to the original game, like updated abilities, the physical and special split, multiple use TMs, and the fairy typing without changing it that much. Today, I'm going to try and see how easily Mega Charizard X can beat Pokemon Emerald with those updated mechanics. The first fight against May goes amazingly. With the updated level up movesets, if the trainer doesn't have a special moveset, like the gym leaders, they will go to their default level up moveset, which in May's case means that her Mudkip starts with the move Water Gun. It was a bit of a problem for regular Charizard when I did this run, but with the Dragon typing replacing the Flying typing, he's now neutral to water moves, which when combined with the move Air Slash, which is a flying 75 base power move, it destroyed Mudkip. Unfortunately, it misses on doing more damage with the type change, but it's still a strong move for this point in the game. While I make my way to Roxanne, let's explain some of the rules for this challenge. The first is that I'll try to keep the number of battles at a bare minimum, fighting trainers only when they are mandatory. This ROM hack has a function to make trainers fight you only if you talk to them, so if you see me running past a trainer that's not necessary to fight, it's most probably because of that. I can also disable random wild battles, but that's more to make the run take less time. The second rule is that absolutely no items will be allowed during battle, including held items. Charizard needs the Charizard X to Mega Evolve, so he's unable to hold any other item for this challenge. Finally, the obvious one is that I cannot use any other Pokemon during battle except Mega Charizard X. I'll get some other Pokemon for HMs, but they'll never be used for other purposes. Anyways, before challenging Roxanne, there's one mandatory trainer on the right of Rosboro City that has 2 Geodudes, and I wanted to challenge him not only for the experience, but also to see how Charizard would do against the gym. And Air Slash was actually doing pretty good damage, 2-shotting the Hiker's Geodudes and 1-shotting them with a crit. Going into Roxanne, I was expecting to do a bit better than regular Charizard with the Mega Evolution, since Rock Tomb is now doing 2 times damage instead of 4, but with Air Slash doing less damage, it just wasn't possible. Geodude needs to hit 3 times with Rock Tomb to KO Mega Charizard X, while Charizard needs to also hit 3 times with Air Slash, so he does win the 1v1. However, he still needs to deal with the rest of Roxanne's team. It might be possible with insane luck with flinches from Air Slash, since it's a 30% chance, but I don't see that happening at this level. Seeing how badly it went, I decided to ditch the idea of minimum battles and get at least one more level on Charizard. I look up, and the trainers that can give me the most experience are the 2 trainers that have 2 Geodudes inside the gym, so I fight one of them, getting to level 12. The first Geodude is still a 3-shot, but at least the second one is a 2-shot. And while I can now get to Nose Pass, the problem is that if I get hit by 2 Rock Tombs, Mega Charizard's speed gets lowered enough that his speed ties against Nose Pass, making the whole flinch with Air Slash strategy useless. On one of my best attempts, I managed to get to Nose Pass at full HP, but even with that and Smoke Screen for lowering accuracy, the luck required to win between the speed tie and the misses is unreal. I didn't want to get another level since, spoilers, regular Charizard also needed to fight 2 trainers inside the gym with 2 Geodudes, but I don't see any other way. It takes me a couple of attempts, but with the 2 Geodudes now being 2 shots, it wasn't that hard. I still needed the luck to get to Nose Pass at full HP, needing either flinches or misses. When fighting Nose Pass, I hit her with 3 smoke screens, which is the most that I could get before being at risk of being KO'd by another attack. After that, it was just a matter of getting lucky enough to win. It's a long fight, but it thankfully didn't take that many restarts. Moving on from one of the hardest fights for Charizard, we move on to one of the easiest, as Broly's fighting types take tons of damage with Air Slash. Even if it might not be stab, it's still a super effective move coming from a Pokemon with 130 special attack, so he didn't have any trouble on that fight. The only other relevant thing was that by defeating Makuhita, Mega Charizard X reached level 17 and tried to learn Dragon Rage, which should be extremely useful for the early game. The move starts being helpful immediately, as he not only one-shots all of the regular trainers, but also by easily 2-shotting both Maze Slugma and Marshtomp. I don't think I really needed the move though, as I still had Air Slash, which should have done decent damage. Now, I haven't talked about it yet, but while I defeat the rest of the trainers before Watson, let's talk about the differences between regular Charizard and Mega Charizard X. The main one is the change from Flying Fire to Dragon Fire. He gains a Ground and Dragon weakness, but replaces it for a non-2x weakness to Rock, a resistance to Electric, and the big one, being now neutral to Water. There's some other changes to the type matchup, but those are the important ones. There's also the loss of stab on Air Slash, but he should make up for it later with Stab Dragon Claw. The other big change is the ability. Instead of having Blaze to boost fire moves when on low HP, now he has Tough Claws, which boosts by 30% contact moves. He really doesn't have any, but after Watson, he should get access to a couple of them. Adding to that is the change in stats, making him go from a special attacker to a mix attacker. Or, I guess, more of a physical attacker if we count his ability, going from 84 attack to 130 attack. He also gets more physical defense, so that could help against the final Steven fights. Overall, it's obviously an upgrade. But with how it went against Roxanne and not being able to use a held item, we'll have to see if he actually does better than regular Charizard by the end of the run. Watson fight. Dragon Rage wasn't a one-shot against Voltorb. He hit me with a rollout that didn't do much, and thanks to him being locked, he couldn't heal and got defeated. Next was the Ace Manek trick, and Ember didn't do much as he paralyzed me with Thunder Wave. He hit me with a weak Shockwave, and Dragon Rage was barely not a KO while he ate his berry. Mega Charizard X got paralyzed the next turn, but the one after, he landed Dragon Rage for the knockout. Magneton came out, and he thankfully missed a Supersonic, allowing me to get a one-shot with Ember. Last was Electric, but he was obviously not a problem. Could have gotten dangerous if Charizard got confused, but I'm sure I would have eventually won after a couple of restarts if that happened. The next part of the story is the fight against Team Magma, but before that, in Full Arbor Town, there's the move reminder. I could trade a hard skill and teach Charizard again any move that I deleted, which might seem like a small thing that I shouldn't even bother to mention, but I could also teach him moves that he might have missed at level 1, and there's actually a ton of moves, including some that allow him to take advantage of his new ability Tough Claws. In the end, I taught him Dragon Claw to replace Air Slash and Flare Blitz to replace Smoke Screen, with Dragon Claw being 80 base power and Flare Blitz being 120 base power but doing recoil like Double Edge, and with both moves being boosted by Tough Claws and being stab moves. I could have also gotten Wing Attack and Shadow Claw, but I'm going to wait until I see if there's a need to teach them. That means that, before the 4th gym, Mega Charizard X has access to 2 stab moves that are over 80 base power. Not only that, but he also has access at any time to some nice coverage moves, like the previously mentioned Shadow Claw, Wing Attack, and now Dig thanks to the TM. I could also teach him Return right now, but as an added rule, I decided not to teach him any move that almost every Pokemon can learn, like Toxic, Double Team, or Rest. They just make every solo run look the same, so I think it's better if I just don't use them. The Maxi fight was after, and man do I love the new moveset. Even when hit by Intimidate, the newly acquired Fire Fan was able to easily 2-shot Mightyena. Zubat was a one-shot with Flare Blitz, which has a really cool animation by the way, and Camerupt was a 2-shot with Dragon Claw. Pretty easy fight. Flannery is next, and I could have gone with Dig, but since it does the same damage as Dragon Claw, and I would give them 3 turns to set up the Sunny Day, I decided not to go with it. She starts with Numble, and surprisingly, Dragon Claw got a one-shot against her. Next was the Ace Torkoal, and this one took a couple of attempts. Dragon Claw does a bit less than half, and she uses a track to prevent me from attacking. I get stuck the next turn, and she goes for a Sunny Day, which shouldn't do much, as Mega Charizard X double resists fire attacks. I land the next attack while she hits a weak Body Slam, but the move got her in healing range. She healed with a potion, and I managed to land another Dragon Claw. I land another Dragon Claw, and her Body Slam thankfully hasn't paralyzed me yet, which gives me the opportunity to land the final attack and defeat her. After that, both her Camerupt and Sologma were easily defeated. I got really unlucky on some attempts due to a track and Body Slam paralysis, but the fact that I barely missed on a 2-shot, no matter what move I use, is probably the most unfortunate part. Still, I managed to win after only a handful of attempts. I get the TM for Overheat alongside my badge, and on the regular Charizard run, I didn't really use this move, but since Mega Charizard X is a physical attacker, I could teach it to him as a sort of stab Hyper Beam move. I would only be able to use it once, but that should be enough for whatever is in front of me. Jumping straight into the normal fight, Dragon Claw is a one-shot against Spinda. For slacking, I use Fire Fang and it did like a third, while he hits with a strong Facade. I hit again, and it gets him to eat his berry while he cannot move due to Truant. You might be wondering why I haven't been using the stronger Dragon Claw, and that's because I wanted to get him in range of being defeated by a Flare Blitz, without risking Norman using a potion, which is exactly what happened when I used the move. After that, both Vigoroth and Linoon were easy one-shots with Dragon Claw. With the 5th patch acquired, I also get access to Surf, and I decided to just head straight to the next gym, defeating both Team Aqua on the Weather Institute and the rival on the way, which were not even worth mentioning. I reached the 6th gym to challenge Winona, and it was a joke. All of her team members were one-shotted with the exception of Pelipper, who got a bit annoying surviving hits on the red and using Protect, but with strong stab moves against most of her team, Mega Charizard X had no troubles. Next was Matzy, and it took a bit longer than it should thanks to Intimidate. I wasn't in any danger with Mega Charizard X's massive attack stat and high damage dealing moves, but I'm starting to realize how much of an issue is Intimidate for him. It shouldn't be a problem for now, but when I reach the league, it might become a serious issue. Since Sydney, Drake and Wallace have a Pokemon with that ability. Let's hope that it doesn't come to the point where I'll have to train. Now, while I go through all of the evil team plot, which, let's be honest, is never an issue, let's talk about the rest of Charizard's level up moveset and TMs he could learn. For the level up moves, there's honestly not much. There's Slash, but there's nothing that the normal type hits for neutral damage that the Dragon and Fire type doesn't. And the rest of the moves are all Fire type, with the only interesting one being Flamethrower at 47, which is more accurate than Heat Wave, a move I could have taught via the move reminder, but slightly less powerful, and Inferno at 62, which is 100 base power and always burns the target, but has a 50% chance to hit. So pretty much the same as Dynamic Punch, but Fire. That last one could be useful, but it comes so late that I don't think I'll even be able to see it during this run, besides for the Steven fight. Not to mention that it's a move that doesn't do contact. As for TMs, there's 3 that could come up: Brick Break, Iron Tail, and Earthquake. I don't know about Earthquake since it doesn't get the boost, but Brick Break could help against Glacia and Steven, with Iron Tail also being a potential move to deal with Steven's rock types. There's still a long way to get there, but it's something to consider when planning for the league, with also Solar Beam plus Sunny Day and Shadow Claw being available options for the league. For now though, I think I'll only teach Shadow Claw to Charizard for the Tate and Lysa fight, which is looking really rough. I just wish there was a setup move or something for Charizard to make him stronger, like, I don't know, Dragon Dance? Speaking of, I had to bring one of the Pokemons I was using for HMs to the battle since I was forced to. It took me a couple of tries, but eventually I got this run. I started with Shadow Claw against Claydol, and it got a crit for a one-shot, which was necessary by the way. While that happened, Satu defeated the HM-Mon with Psychic. Lunatone came out, and this time I targeted Satu with Shadow Claw, also getting a one-shot while being hit by a Psychic from Lunatone. Last of their team is Solrock, and I went to attack Lunatone since he was the one with the highest special attack. But the move doesn't get an OHKO, and he hits with a Psychic while Solrock sets up a Sunny Day. Next turn, I defeat Lunatone, and thankfully, Solrock isn't strong enough to finish off Mega Charizard X, so I just defeat him with one attack. That could have gone way worse. As mentioned before, Claydol needed to be defeated with a Creek. His Earthquakes just did too much damage to Charizard. But if Solrock attacked when I didn't KO Lunatone, I might have needed to use Rare Candies to get more bulk, since the only other option would have been Solar Beam plus Sunny Day. But with the setup turn for the Sun, I'm not sure how well that would have worked. I'm just happy that I don't have to restart over and over to get lucky enough, or use Rare Candies to get past this fight. Next was the double battle on the space station against Matzy and Tabitha with Steven. And even though I got hit twice by the lower attack from Intimidate, it was not a problem. It could have gone really badly against the Camerups, but the first one was dealt with quickly at the start of the fight, and the second one focused more on attacking Aggron than Charizard. Last of the evil team fights is against Archie, and his Sharpedo knows no super effective moves. So it was way easier than the double battle against Matzi. The final gym leader is Juan, and in preparation for it, I got both ATMs for Solar Beam and Sunny Day. I could just try and brute force it with Dragon Claw, but I'll probably need it eventually for the champion fight. So might as well just get it now. And the fight was a complete joke. Everyone was a one-shot with either Solar Beam or Dragon Claw. Even the Kingdra, who's usually a problem by having weaknesses to only Dragon, and I guess Fairy in this game, was a one-shot with Dragon Claw. Crodon survived the hit, but that was only because the sun ran out and I tried going for Dragon Claw instead of Solar Beam, but he didn't do much. Finally, before the league, is Wally, and even though I forgot to teach back Flare Blitz to Mega Charizard X, he was still able to win, mostly without issues. Okay, there's been a couple of troublesome fights, namely Roxanne, but overall it has been going pretty well for Mega Charizard X. This ends here though. I've already talked about how Intimidate is an issue, but with 3 out of 5 league members having one Pokemon with that ability, I really don't see it ending well for Charizard. Not to mention that there's Drake with all of his dragons. Hopefully, I won't struggle too much, as I feel like Charizard is really close to winning without having to use rare candies. Besides that, in preparation for the league, I decided that the final moveset should be Flare Blitz, Dragon Claw, Shadow Claw, and Brick Break, with the last 2 moves being for Phoebe and Sydney respectively. I have other TMs in the bag, so I'll mention it if I decide to make a change for a fight. First of the Elite 4 is Sydney, and things are immediately not looking well. Brick Break wasn't a one-shot against Mightyena, and he hit me with a crunch. He then healed, but 2 more attacks defeated him. Next was Absol, and he also wasn't a one-shot, giving him the chance to hit with Slash before fainting. Crodon came out, and while he also survived a Brick Break, he only used Swords Dance, so he fainted without doing any damage. Cacturne came after, and I thought of going for Flare Blitz, but I need the HP for the next Pokemon, so I went for the 2-shot with Brick Break while he used Cotton Spore to reduce Mega Charizard X's speed. Last was Shiftry, and while he did use a double team, Charizard still managed to land a Flare Blitz for an OHKO. I really do not like how close so many of Sydney's Pokemon were to being one-shots. Let's hope that it doesn't mean anything bad for the future. Second of the Elite 4 is Phoebe, and after she used a couple of Protects, I finally land a Shadow Claw against her first Dusclops. However, it doesn't get a one-shot and she hits with a Shadow Punch. She heals, and it looks like it was a range, since the next attack defeated her. Next was the second Dusclops, and while Charizard's attack got her close to the red, her Earthquake didn't do much, so another attack knocked her out. After that, the rest of her team were one-shots. Third of the Elite 4 is Glacia, and while her first Celio wasn't an OHKO with Brick Break, she couldn't do much, so she was easily defeated, alongside her first Glalie and second Celio. For Wall Rain, Mega Charizard X was doing really good damage against her, while her Ice Beam didn't do a lot, meaning that the rest of her team was easily defeated. Last of the Elite 4 is Drake, and on my first attempt, Dragon Claw wasn't able to get a one-shot against Shelgon. I still managed to defeat him, but then I get hit by Intimidate from Salamence, and the next attack wasn't able to defeat him, while his own Dragon Claw did massive damage. Still, I was able to knock him out after he healed with 2 more attacks. After that was Flygon, who was a one-shot, so next was Altaria, who managed to survive a Dragon Claw while bringing Mega Charizard X to only 3 HP with Dragon Breath. I defeated him, but then Kingdra came after, lived an attack, and countered with Surf, defeating me. It's getting really frustrating that whole not being able to KO Pokemon, but if I manage to get a crit on either Salamence or Altaria, I feel like I could win. 2 attempts later, and Salamence went down to a single Dragon Claw without a crit, so I guess there was a small range to KO him. Then Flygon came out and showed me that he was also a range, surviving my attack and hitting back with a strong Earthquake. I was still able to defeat him, but Charizard is at pretty much the same HP as if he got hit by Salamence. Next was Altaria, and somehow he was also arranged to get OHKO'd. What is happening? Last was Kingdra, and he still wasn't a one-shot. However, he only went for Dragon Dance. He healed and got hit again. In the turn after, he went for Surf that didn't do enough to knock out Charizard, so I was able to win against Drake. Didn't see that coming with so few attempts. Finally, it's the champion, Wallace. I forgot to change the moveset to teach him Solar Beam, so the first attempt is more of a test. He starts with Wailord, and Dragon Claw is doing around half to him, while his Water Spout does close to nothing, so I easily defeat him. Next was Whiscash, and I got a bit worried due to the ground typing, but he only used Amnesia, so I was able to easily defeat him. Then Gyarados came out, lowered Mega Charizard X attack with Intimidate, took less than half from Dragon Claw, and then did massive damage with Earthquake, defeating me the next turn with the same move. As I said, this was a test, so I'm going to change the moveset a bit with some TMs and see if they make any change. I went with the moveset of Sunny Day, Solar Beam, Dragon Claw, and Aerial Ace, but it didn't make much of a difference against Gyarados. His Intimidate cripples Charizard's attack way too much, while doing a lot of damage with Earthquake. I kept trying, managing on a few attempts to get to Tentacruel, but then he easily defeated me with one Sludge Bomb. I tried for nearly 100 attempts to see if I could get a crit against him to get past without taking too much damage, but in all of those attempts, I didn't get a single one. I could keep trying, but at this point, it might be better if I go for plan B, which involves resetting from the beginning of the Elite Four and teaching him another move beforehand. I'm not sure how well that move will work, but I have to try. I'll see you when I get back. I managed to get back to Wallace and reach all the way to Gyarados once more. And here's the plan. I took Charizard Dynamic Punch from the move tutor, which always confuses the target. It only has 50% accuracy, but if I get Gyarados to either hit himself twice or hit himself after setting up a Dragon Dance, once I hit him with a Dragon Claw, it should be enough to KO him. It takes me a couple of attempts, but eventually I get it to work. Tentacruel comes out, and once again, Dragon Claw doesn't defeat him. However, he luckily misses Hydro Pump, so I KO him the next turn. The Ace Milotic comes out, and I set up the Sunny Day while his Surf doesn't do much. I then go for Solar Beam, and it does more than half, so while he hits me with a weak Ice Beam, another attack defeats him. Last was Ludicolo, and Dragon Claw did half as he went for a double team. But it didn't matter, as Charizard landed another move to finally win against the champion Wallace. That was pretty difficult. Way more than I expected. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't get Dynamic Punch, but if I kept trying to get that crit, I fear that Tentacruel would have landed a Hydro Pump and made me lose, forcing me to use the rare candies. However, as you probably know, the run is not over yet. There's still the secret post-game battle against Steven, which, no doubt, is going to be the biggest challenge for Mega Charizard X, having to face against 3 rock types and a ground type. I kept going back and forth between what moveset I should go with, but in the end, I ended up setting for Dragon Claw, Flitter Blitz, Shadow Claw, and Dynamic Punch. I'm not really sure if this is going to work with so many Pokemon with high physical defense, but I have a lot of options for moves, so I'll go trying and see what works best. Not to mention that I also have many rare candies that were lying around the region. Let's just hope that it's going to be enough. First attempt, and Flare Blitz isn't a one-shot against Skarmory, so it's immediately not looking good. Still, he doesn't do much with Air Slash, so while he ends up healing, it takes only 2 more hits with Flare Blitz to knock him out. However, that means that Charizard takes a lot of recoil damage in the process. Metagross came out, but once again, Flare Blitz was barely not enough to knock him out, and Charizard ended up knocking himself out with the recoil. Maybe if I go with Heat Wave instead for Skarmory, which does special damage, it could work. Next attempt I go with the move, replacing Dragon Claw, and it's still not a one-shot. But at least Mega Charizard X doesn't take any recoil damage, so he goes into the Metagross fight much healthier. I still go for Flare Blitz against him, and I get a crit OHKOing him. However, next is Claydol, who isn't a one-shot even with a crit Shadow Claw, and defeats Charizard with Earthquake. Okay, rare candies are 100% going to be necessary if I'm going to be barely not KOing so many Pokemon and getting one-shot by ground and rock moves. There are 17 scattered across the Hoenn region, but 2 of them are locked behind trainers, so I'm going to give myself 15 and try every couple of levels. Let's start with 4, which brings Charizard to level 65. Skarmory and Metagross ended up still being ranges with my fire moves, so I ended up getting to level 68, which meant that I got to Claydol at around 2/3 of HP because of Flare Blitz. I was waiting to get another crit with Shadow Claw against him, but I ended up surviving the Earthquake, so I KO'd him with another attack. Aggron came out, and no matter what I do, I can't KO him due to his ability Sturdy. Still, I go for a Heat Wave that does half, and for some reason, he goes for a Thunder that misses. Don't really know why he went for the move, but that gave me the chance to defeat him. Next was Greedily, and my Dynamic Punch lands, doing massive damage and confusing him. However, he doesn't hit himself, and lands an Ancient Power to defeat me. Getting that lucky again against Aggron is not going to be possible. And even if I do, I would have to hope to both land a Dynamic Punch against Greedily, make him hit himself, hope that it's not enough to make Steven use a potion, and then land a Heat Wave, only to then have to still fight against Armaldo. That is not going to happen. So let's switch the strategy. I switched Shadow Claw for Sunny Day, and the strat now is to OHKO both Skarmory and Metagross with Heat Wave and get to Claydol with a bit more HP. Then, with the Sun Boost, Flare Blitz is able to KO Claydol, though Mega Charizard X ends up at half HP due to the recoil. As a side note, Solar Beam isn't a one-shot, so it doesn't work. Then, I have to keep trying until I land a Dynamic Punch on Aggron and make him hit himself. I eventually get it, and I managed to get to Critically, but with the sun fading away, my Heat Wave didn't do enough damage to him. So, Charizard faints. I've honestly ran out of ideas. I could try Air Slash against Aggron for better luck, but I know that the sun is going to fade away and Heat Wave isn't going to KO him. And I don't want to try until I can land a second Dynamic Punch and get Credily to hit himself, especially considering that I still have to fight Armaldo and he's neutral to fighting. So I'll use the rest of the rare candies and see if I can somehow survive an Ancient Power and set up a Sunny Day, which should hopefully be enough for Steven's last remaining Pokemon. If that doesn't work, then I'll be forced to fight trainers. I try at level 72 with a few rare candies still left, and Charizard manages to leave an Ancient Power, so I get the Sun up. But then Heat Wave just does a bit over half and gets knocked out. I could try with the max level I can get with the last rare candies I have, but we both know what the result is going to be. So I'm going to try one last thing before fighting trainers. I replaced Dynamic Punch for Air Slash and maxed out Mega Charizard X level with the rare candies I had left. The idea is to get a flinch on Claydol and Aggron and then set up a Sunny Day against Credily, who I can then defeat with Flare Blitz. I get the flinch on Claydol, but then Heat Wave doesn't defeat him. I know it's a range from previous attempts, but I am not willing to try until I get it, considering the amount of luck already required. So, fighting trainers it is. I'm going to reload a save from before I started challenging Steven and do what I need to do, hopefully getting an extra level from the battles. There's 3 trainers that I want to fight. The first one is the rival on Lily Cove. She's guarding the entrance to the mall, so beating her will give me access to Fire Blast. However, when I get there, she's not there. I looked online, and even if you skip her and fought the league, she should still be at the entrance. Because there's literally nothing I can do about it, I'm just going to add a fight to the counter and fight a random trainer that should give me the same amount of experience. The other 2 are the ones guarding a rare candy. As mentioned before, there's another one, but it's in the trick house when you beat it for the first time, so I wouldn't get that much experience in comparison. I'll leave it for now, but I might have to go there if I still cannot win. It took me a couple of attempts, but eventually I get to Claydol with the 2 extra levels from the fights and the rare candy, and with both Fire Blast and Air Slash. And I get the flinch on Claydol and manage to beat him with Fire Blast. The sun faded as Aggron came out, and I get another flinch with Air Slash, defeating him the next turn with Fire Blast. I was getting nervous as this was the only time I've gotten this far with the strategy when Credily came out, and I knew I needed to go for the Sunny Day. I get it, but Ancient Power brings Mega Charizard X to half HP. I still go for the Flare Blitz, and while it does get an OHKO, Charizard gets to red HP due to the recoil, clearly not being able to use the move again without fainting. Armaldo comes out, and my only option is to pray that Fire Blast lands. And it does. Not only that, but it also gets an OHKO, defeating Steven at last and winning against the final boss of the game with 208 restarts, using all of the rare candies, and a total of 88 battles, with 5 of them being optional fights. I really didn't expect to struggle this much with Mega Charizard X, especially considering how well regular Charizard did on his run. Even more surprising was that the Mega Evolution did actually worse, but I guess the combination of not having Stab Air Slash, not being able to use a healed item, being weak to ground, and having Tough Claws instead of Blaze made it do a bit worse, though only against both Roxanne and Steven. I might have not needed that last rare candy, but I'm just happy to have one with Fire Blast and that it didn't take that many restarts to get the final run, so I don't really care. But anyways, did I miss anything on the video? If you think so, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.